One. Hey, this is Monica,
Hey, this is Melody.
and welcome to
Welcome
the
to the
Invisible
Invisible
Women
Women
Podcast.
Podcast. Hello, IW listeners. We are back, and today we have with us accomplished social change agent and the executive director of Future Coalition, Corryn Freeman.
Ooh, welcome,
Hello,
Corryn.
Hey, y'all.
Corryn.
Thank you so much for that very kind, very warm welcome. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
We're excited to have you here. Thank you for stopping by the Invisible Women Podcast. How are you feeling today? I know you're out in Florida, so what's the weather like?
Well, it's a beautiful day. So what's
Okay.
it like there? 86 degrees.
Okay.
Whoa,
I'm sitting
okay.
outside now, so just admiring the beauty of the day. But how I'm feeling is a loaded question. There's a lot happening in the world, but as
Ooh.
I would say, I count it all joy.
Okay. And I'm on board with that. There's a lot going on and we're going to get into it. But first, can you tell our listeners what the Future Coalition does? What is this all about?
Absolutely. So again, Corryn Freeman. I use she and they pronouns, and I serve as the executive director of Future Coalition. And Future Coalition is an intergenerational organization that has a core belief in the power of youth leadership and that we actually need youth in order to lead us on the path for liberation. So what we do is we resource young change makers and change agents to propel transformational change. So what exactly does that mean? It means we provide them with financial support, individuals, low barrier to entry grants through our Youth Direct Action Fund program up to $5,000 for any kind of direct social change action.
Okay.
We also have Future Incubator, which is a fiscal sponsorship opportunity. Right now, we're servicing predominantly young female people of color. And hosting their organizations. We have organizations like Black Girl Environmentalists, Encode Justice, Zero Hour, One Up Action, a whole bunch of great organizations that we, provide with back-end operational support, free consulting services, things of that nature. And we help them secure multi-$100,000 grants over time.
Wow.
The goal is to get them to be secure, to go be the change agents that they want to be. Yeah, go ahead.
So Corryn, so when you say grants, help me understand, and for our listeners out there, so let's just say I'm 18 and I have an idea for social justice. What would I do? Would I create a nonprofit? Would I create an initiative? Like, what would be the steps and how would you then come into play?
Absolutely. So for the Youth Direct Action Fund in particular, you can have an idea. So for instance, we helped many young people with the resources that they needed when they were initially having protests in favor of the people of Palestine, for Palestinian liberation.
Okay.
Individuals, college chapters of JVP would apply for funding from Future Coalition to cover whatever the expenses are for the megaphones, for the cones.
Wow.
Say what the purpose of it is, and we would provide them with that money. We believe so. It's pretty easy. It's like a application, as long as you can prove that you are legit. And there's on the back end. But the goal for the Youth Direct Action Fund grant is to be low barrier to entry, so that people who are just interested in movement organizing, we are financially investing in them and their ideas. And honestly, it is money that it's okay if it doesn't work. It's okay if it fails. So it's also some experimental money to allow people to do whatever the direct action that they want is. Now, if they are looking for us to fiscally sponsor them, we do offer fiscal sponsorship to organizations that don't have 501c3s, but many of the organizations they're not actual organizations, but more so like they're ideas, and they are doing programming, but they need someone C3, C4 status. We offer that home. Some of them are brand new, and those are harder to do. Are more established over a number of months and years. And we have a couple of fiscal projects that we've worked with for a number of years, and it's been good.
Does this have to be only in Florida, the state of Florida?
Oh, no. Future Coalition is a national movement organization.
I like that. Okay. And then just so that we're clear for our listeners, you don't have to necessarily be an established LLC or nonprofit. You do have to have, it has to make sense, and there is an application process.
Yes, it has to make sense. There's an application process both for Future Incubator, which is the sponsorship, and for the Youth Direct Action Fund. And you can find all that information on our website, www.futurecoalition.org.
Is this an age cap? Do you have to be, let's just say, from 18 to 25? No?
So youth and youth serving, right?
Okay.
So if you are a young person, Future Coalition defines that up to age 25.
Yes.
Fit in the demographic. Or if you are an adult serving young people, the target population in which you serve is under 25, you can also apply. Same thing with Future Incubator.
Wow.
This is an awesome program.
Well, you guys are doing some amazing work, and I think it's really great that you are encouraging, you know, our young people to use their voice to really bring about change. Because a lot of times, right, when we think about change agents, you feel like you got to be real seasoned and mature, but it's like, hey, if there's something that you really stand firm on and you really want to make an impact, you can do it as a young person. And so, you know, Corryn, why do you think that it's important to encourage our Gen Z to engage in this type of advocacy?
I appreciate that question. And to me, it's like, for me, it's like, why wouldn't we expect Gen Z to lead the revolution? When we think about John Lewis and walking over the William Pettis Bridge, when we think about Martin Luther King Jr., you know, when we think about Angela Davis, when we think about Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and the role that young people have historically played in making big strides toward freedom, all of the larger protest movements in the United States are led by young people under the age of 30. You know? If you're a Christian, your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Okay.
I know that.
Okay. Yeah, he was in his 30s.
So for me, like, to me, one, young people, youth, they have an energy about them. They are filled with hope. And in my personal opinion, they're just more closely tethered to the divine because of their youth.
That's right. They're fearless.
They have less experience to be jaded on this earth. And I genuinely believe that they have the ability to see with a lens that generations before them just can't see because of just the time difference. So I genuinely believe that in order also for us to have strong movements that carry on over time, and if we look at the fight for civil rights, we are actively still engaging in a fight for civil rights.
Absolutely.
As American women's reproductive health movement, we're watching a rollback of rights. We are actively in the fight now. So it is critical that we have our more established and seasoned movement leaders transfer that wisdom to the younger generation so that they're not starting from ground zero, but that they can stand upon the shoulders of, you know, the people who have come before them. So that's how we have strong movements, is with youth.
I like that you mentioned that. A lot of our greats, like you mentioned, like our Huey P's or Martin Luther King, those guys were in their young 20s. I mean, when they started, they were 18, 19, 20 years old, and they just had this fearlessness about their business, that they know that they wanted to create change and they wanted to leave a lasting impact. So saying all that, I'm just kind of cringing. I want to talk a little bit about our presidential election, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And
it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And stop me if there's anything you don't want to talk about. But what are your thoughts on our new runner-up, Mr. Kennedy Jr.? Do we know anything about him? Do we have any strong feelings about him? What are your thoughts?
So overall, I'll back up a little bit.
Okay.
So for me, we'll set the scene. Like, I personally am a registered Democrat, was born into a Democratic voting family, have always been a party system. The way I look at the two-party system right now is that, honestly, I feel like the two-party system is broken, and that the American people deserve to have high quality third-party candidates that can be viable.
Agree.
Now to talk about, so just setting that as a foundational framework. So about Kennedy, I honestly don't know too much. I've looked into him just a little bit, but with my understanding of the American political landscape, the viability of a third party candidate right now, it's extremely minimal.
Okay.
And I think it's going to take a number of years, like a decade and beyond, before we get to the place. It might move sooner depending on whatever current events happen. Who knows? Maybe the economy will crash. Who knows? Things might happen to make that timeline speed up, but I don't necessarily believe that a third party candidate is viable. So I have not paid too much attention to Kennedy or Cornel West.
Okay. I know he's definitely independent. I know he's has a lot of theories that Biden and Trump don't necessarily have, which is a good thing, right? Because now it's giving voters options. I think personally that he has a leg to stand on, because you have a lot of voters now that don't want to vote because they feel like, if I have to choose between Trump or Biden, I don't want to choose, and I just rather do nothing. So now that we're talking about this younger generation, what would you say to some folks that are a part of the Future Coalition that are saying, hey, Corryn, I don't even know if I want to vote this presidential election? What would you say to them?
Absolutely. So to be completely honest, I have been someone who is there. Like I've never been in this position. I voted in every election, primary, local. But this electoral cycle, I'm extremely disappointed. I find myself very disappointed.
I know.
And when I look at where we are as Americans in our political understanding, to me, the viability of that third party candidate is so small. I think that we need to take more time to build up people to feel encouraged to be able to vote for third party candidates, to get to a place where they can actually compete. So would I encourage them necessarily to vote for that third party candidate? One, vote your conscience. Vote your conscience. And the way I feel about Donald Trump, even though I think Joe Biden has been harmful, and I think is actively causing harm to people in the world, I think that Donald Trump would cause an even greater amount of harm to people here in the United States, people who are not wealthy, people who are not white, people who don't have a certain level of status, which very often young people just don't have, right?
Okay.
And what I am seeing from Joe Biden, it's hard because I feel like I'm giving him his flowers and I'm mad. But what I have seen from Joe Biden are some attempts at concessions to, stave off conservative policies in politics. And I am not necessarily a fan of the lesser of two evils approach. What we are encouraging people at Future Coalition to do is focus on their down ballot races. We're really encouraging them to focus on their school board, local elected officials, because the honest truth is that you feel those things first before you feel the impacts of your presidential elections. And we say that with the understanding that if progressive people are voting, a rising tide aids all ships. Inevitably, it is going to either help that progressive third party candidate or a Democrat on the ticket.
And Corryn, I'm glad that you brought up Trump, because I want to talk about your governor, Ron DeSantis. And unfortunately, he's caused quite a bit of harm as well. Yes, Ron is a conservative, and that's all good if that's your thing. But in 2023, he passed a bill banning DEI initiatives in public colleges, which why? Why, right? Because we definitely need to make sure that we're diversifying not only our faculty, but also our students. So to take something like that away, I think put a big dent in how people feel about politics in general, especially when we're talking about young folks. What are your thoughts on your lovely governor and him banning this DEI initiative last year?
The way I look at Ron DeSantis is, like, do you know who Bull Connor was? Like, Bull Connor
Yes.
was the governor who wanted to stop the Little Rock Nine from, I believe,
Mhm.
going to school. Like, to me,
Right.
that's what Ron DeSantis is right
Yes.
now. The way that he acts, operates, to me, he is there's a level of what I believe to be tyranny that I feel like he is raining down
Yeah.
on people of color in the state,
Mhm.
poor people in the state, and like he just does not care. As an African American woman with 3 kids, 2 of whom have special needs, right?
Okay.
It scares me. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, I'd be real. Like, the weather is really nice. That's the only thing I can say
I
about
know that
Florida
fact.
at this point in time. But I want to remind people that Ron DeSantis was able to win his election by like 35,000 votes. Like, it was a very small election, and the closest that a Democrat has come in 20 years was Andrew Gillum, a true
Okay.
progressive.
Yes.
Some things
Mhm.
happen later on that,
I know about his sexuality and things like that. That's none of our business.
I don't feel less about his sexuality, but more so about just like the setup, the entire scandal around it.
Right.
Yes.
And it vastly, I think, would impact his chances of ever having a statewide office in the state of Florida. But Andrew Gillum was this close to beating Ron DeSantis, and we had not seen a Democrat come
Okay.
that close in 20 years.
A long
To
time.
beating
And
that
being a Black man as well.
right. We were
Yep.
very, very close.
Okay.
And so that's why, like, the Biden campaign believes that Florida is in play this electoral cycle, that it can turn blue. But I definitely think that Ron DeSantis needs to go. His rule is pretty tyrannical, but he has done his best to get people from New York and California, take their businesses here in Florida, because we have, no state tax. We're better on business tax. So they were recruiting, the elites, financial elites from these progressive states, New York and California, and importing them here in Florida. And it's created more distance between Florida's viability for progressive statewide candidates.
I like Andrew and Angela's podcast. I just wanted to say that. So he actually is a podcaster. Yeah, I don't know if you listen, but they have a good one over there. Yeah. Yeah. Melody, you look like you were going to say something.
Yeah. Because one of the things, Corryn, that you started to tap on was about, focusing on the school board. So one, question that I think me and the listeners probably have is, what is the Future Coalition's 2024 civic engagement strategy with emphasis around the school boards?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So we have a number of target tier 1 states. So we're focusing on Florida, Georgia, Arizona, Alaska, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Yes, those are our key states, and we take a collaborative approach. So we have met with a number of in-state partners that focus on youth organizing in communities of color that have a vested interest in those down ballot races, and specifically in places where we can go from red to blue, who are interested in electing good school board candidates. So we've created collaborative space in each of these states to develop independent expenditure campaigns. That means campaigns that are paid for not by the candidates, but by a group of individuals or organizations that care. To then go canvass for these candidates, in favor of these candidates, make phone calls in order to get these candidates' names out, yard signs, things of that nature, to help get those people elected. So that is our big focus this electoral cycle, because young people are very, very, very affected by their school board candidates. Something else our governor recently has done is now he's demanding that kindergarten through 12th grade, they must learn about communism and the evils of communism. I mean, I feel like it's, you can have a segment on communism, but starting in kindergarten, that feels like washing.
Well, being that he doesn't want to talk about same sex, he doesn't want to talk about anything
Race,
related to
slavery.
DI. Exactly. So I didn't know that. So thank you for informing
That's hot
us
off the
about
press.
that.
That's yesterday. That happened
Oh,
yesterday.
okay.
Oh, just yesterday. Okay, so I don't feel so bad.
Hot off the press.
Wow, wow. So you said that you have 3 children. Are
I
your
do.
children in the public school system?
As of right now, they are, and because we are thinking about what the options are for our children. My oldest is an artist; he's a drummer. We want to send him to the arts magnet.
Okay.
So that's him. My middle daughter, my oldest and my middle both have autism. My
Okay.
middle daughter is a non-verbal or non-speaking autistic person. We are looking
Okay.
to more hands-on therapy centers for her within like her elementary years. So like having her go through a more therapeutic approach. And then for my youngest daughter, we're trying to just like figure out what we're going to do with her. She's
Okay.
neurotypical and she's in public school. It's an A-rated public school. She doesn't come back saying anything too controversial because mommy is always listening to hear what she's talking. But we're thinking about like Montessori charter schools, which is also something I never thought that I would do. I was brought up in the public school system, and I believe that public schools should be healthy. But with the way Broward County, well, not just Broward County, Florida public schools
Yeah.
are, they don't necessarily feel like safe environments for my children.
And that's the reason why I asked, because I was just wondering, have you seen a shift in, with all the politics that are happening around Ron, with him just getting into office in 2019? Have you seen a shift in any programs being cut? Any staffing changes that directly come from the head, right? Come from the governor on down, and you know that it's something that he's done that's causing this impact.
Well, from what I understand is the funneling of money from public schools into charter schools is a directive, right? So there are 5 schools in Broward County, I don't remember which ones, that are going to be repurposed in some way because they can't afford to keep them open, right?
Wow.
I believe starting next school year. So they're going to completely like repurpose these institutions for either training centers in the county, like the county will own them. But what I'm seeing right now is it looks like it's like a phasing out and scaling down of the public school system. Where we live, most of the children on our street, they go to private schools, Catholic schools, or charter schools. And I'm like, wow, I cannot believe that we are living in this time. Never thought I would see it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, and sometimes we see that just nationwide. And I mean, Corryn, you have your hands full. I mean, you are just leading change. Sounds like you got your hands full being a busy mom. A question that I have for you, what was your background, like your former life, before you started leading up into being an organizer here in Florida? What led you up to this point?
Oh, okay, absolutely. So it all started at Howard University. So I went to Howard.
Okay.
Go by say. It all started at Howard. So I got into Howard as a theater major, and like in my first semester, my dad was like, "I'm not sending you here for art." And I'm like, what do you mean? And as I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to change my major to, there's an election happening. Hillary Clinton, and I was an avid Clinton supporter, but then this guy named Barack Obama came and spoke to us in the auditorium, and the way I lit up and was like, oh my goodness, this man is amazing. And I started volunteering for his campaign, and I majored to political science. And from there, I graduated with a degree in political science. I joined on the Obama campaign, his second campaign.
Very cool.
Colorado. And then over the years, I've done work at Planned Parenthood as their organizing director for Florida Alliance of Planned Parenthood. Before that, I was working in Trinidad and Tobago as a consultant, a campaign field consultant for the first female prime minister at the time. Her name was Kamala Bissau-Bissau. And I've worked with like the Collective PAC. Ever since Barack Obama came to Howard University, it really changed my life to make me want to get more politically involved. But I will say, I grew up with a dad who was a pastor of a church in Baltimore, and he was an NAACP county president. I grew up going to protests, right? And my mom has led, she was the former president of the National Civil Rights Museum and the Community Foundation in Washington, D.C. she worked for. Now she runs the Reginald F. Lewis Museum in Baltimore. Like, I grew up with figures in my home who were very much politically locked in and locked into social change. So I think that really grounded me in my desire to do this work. And like the Obama campaign gave me a lot of my like formal organizing training.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's in your DNA.
Yeah.
I do.
You believe it.
And you were really passionate about it. I can see it. I know our listeners can hear it. And I just love that because for me, I think it's really critical that especially our young folks see people that look like them advocating, knowledgeable about politics, right? Because what would you say to a young person that might be listening right now that they're paralyzed? They don't know what to do in terms of elections, in terms of making an impact in their community or even in their community or even broader, just on a national level. Where could they start? What should they do? What should they do? What initiatives could they join?
So first, like, let's talk about like where should they start? Less on the political piece, but like, what do you care about? What do you like? Right?
Great
what
start.
do you like, and like, how does it impact the world? Just that little assessment. And then also, like, are you a part of a community of people who care about the same thing? Something that I believe is happening, if you look around, I think communities are dying. There are less people in community with one another, right? And having strong sense of community is what allows uprising, political change to really happen. We need to be in community with one another. So encouragement number one is to like the thing that I like, what is the community that exists around it? And if one doesn't exist, if you have a couple of friends, you know, a meeting a week or every other week, just start something, whether it's a club at your school to just talk about it. And then also be willing to share that with the broader community, whether it's your broader school or your street. Something I'm doing, there's no homeowners association or anything on my street. But I'm planning to organize a block party with my neighbors because I would like to be in community with them. I don't know.
Look at you.
I lived here for 8 years and I don't know y'all. Like, how can we cut down the street for a couple hours? Everybody finish, let the kids outside to play. Start a little group chat because I know we all want some speed bumps on this road.
I know that's right.
It literally starts by what do I care about? Who can I gather with? What things we have in common? And like, what are our needs? Then from there, you can figure out the advocacy piece. You can also feel free to join a local organization. So to me, a great organization that I love is Dream Defenders. They're a national organization that really focuses on like political education, and they have a document called the Freedom Papers that is beautiful and visionary. And it really just inspires me to what a liberatory framework could mean, a vision of what could be if we were free, what freedom looks like and what we deserve. And to me, going there to learn more, like political, ideological, if you're progressive politically, it will help you learn some organizing tactics and give you a community to be a part of. Or also apply for grants and resources from Future Coalition. That too.
Wow, that's great. And so just to even do a quick recap. So it's like find a problem that you're passionate about, right, Corryn? I mean, be strong in knowing your why. Okay. Go out there and find your tribe, because a lot of times, we feel like, we don't even know where to start. So start to find like-minded individuals. And if you can't find it, start it.
There you
go. And you'll be surprised when you can get on board.
And I like to frame it less about like the problem. Because I like if you are passionate about environmentalism, right? I like the earth. Who are the other people that like the earth? Just as someone who has operated from my place of anger, and anger is power, anger is real. But I find that I am able to sustain the work that I do through hope. through
Okay.
love, right? So I can have bursts of passion and anger, right? But like as soon as it doesn't go my way, I can get ready to just like let it all go.
Yeah.
But if I come to this from a place of love, I love Black people. I'm gonna join the NAACP Youth and College Citizen. You know?
That's right.
So from that place, it will allow you to sustain in movement organizing.
Okay.
I like that. And what we say, you know, your pain is going to be your purpose. So,
Amen.
you know, you know, a lot of times, and I've found it throughout my life, I've had pain and it's like, hold on, this is my purpose. I need to advocate for this and advocate for Black women. And like yourself, you're advocating for our future leaders, because as we know, young people are our future leaders. So let's leave off with saying, this 2024 election, what are we going to tell our young people to do?
So we're going to tell our young people to take a look at, especially, we're going to talk at the top of the ticket right now, right? At the top of the ticket, who are the candidates? Beyond just like, you know, Democrat, Republican, what is it that they stand for?
Okay.
And how many of these things are negotiable for me and what are not negotiable? And based on that, you do a process of elimination for yourself on who to vote for.
Okay. Are we doing this on Google, or is there any special website that people can go to if they?
No special website that I have that I'm aware of now, but that is a great idea. That is a great idea.
Okay, see, future leaders. I just gave you an idea.
You absolutely did. But I think do your own research, because oftentimes I find people will, like organizations will do their own report cards, and there's a level of slant to it.
Yeah.
But if you do your own independent research, it allows you to come at it with a level mind. And then for our local elections, above all, really make sure that you are voting lower on the ticket. Make sure that you're voting for your local elected officials, your mayors, your members of Congress, and do that research for your school board candidates too, especially if you are not in school, but if you have school-aged friends or you are a mom with children in schools, it is important to know who the children are, who is making this decisions for your children. It impacts a whole generation of the workforce moving forward.
Yes.
So make sure that we're aware of who our candidates are, doing our research and committing to voting down the ticket.
Okay. And that's key, right? For all of our listeners, what people need to know. Some people are afraid of politics, but what we need to know, these are our decision makers. They're the ones that are creating policies. They're creating bills. Some of them are favorable. A lot of them aren't, but these are decision makers, and it does impact us sooner than later. You might feel like, oh, this is happening in the White House and I'm sitting in Oakland or I'm sitting in Broward County, but it will trickle down and it will have an impact on you sooner than later. So yes, making sure that we're involved in that process.
Politics, but politics does you.
I know
that's right. That's right.
Does you. And we are watching, like you said, that rollback of DEI in Florida. Direct impact from Governor Ron DeSantis. We have now a 6-week abortion ban in place in the state of Florida.
I didn't know that.
For 6 weeks, yes. A 6-week abortion ban was signed by the governor. It went through the legislature, but it was signed.
So you have to wait 6 weeks, or you can't be more than 6 weeks.
You can't be more than 6 weeks pregnant. So you can only have access to an abortion up to 6 weeks.
Prior to.
And some women don't find out they're pregnant until 3-4 months in.
I don't know anybody who found out they were pregnant prior to 6 weeks.
6 weeks, right? So that's already a doozy, if you know.
So, I mean, and what that means for women in Florida, like in order to access rights to an abortion, Virginia is the closest state that they can travel to. That's the direct result of our elected officials who we elect. It does you, baby, whether you want it to or not.
Well, when you said about the list, you know, figure out what's your non-negotiables, it kind of just reminds me like of dating, right? Some things we can compromise, and there are some that's a hard no. It's not gonna work, baby.
Right.
So, well, one of the things,
those are the things. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Melanie.
Go.
No, I was just going to comment and say that those are the things, to me, those types of policies are really what drive minorities out of certain states, right? Because if you're not allowed to get an abortion, especially if you're in a lower income situation, you might not have the funds to be able to care for a child. You might not even have the funds to be able to afford birth control and things of that stuff to prevent pregnancy. And so to me, those are direct attacks on minority groups, specifically Black people.
Yeah.
And this is why we cannot stress it again. You need to be in some way, in some shape or form, involved on a political level, right? Because if this is not impacting you, it may impact your sister, it may impact your cousin, it may impact someone's mother. And do you think that with some of the policy changes and how Governor DeSantis is running things in Florida, has that pushed a lot of Black people out of Florida?
So it's definitely pushed some people out. It's made it a hostile state.
Yes.
For many. I will though say that I find like my community that I'm tapped into here is still here, and that's why I'm here, because my community's here. My community's here, and my community's fighting, and I encourage those who can stay and fight, because you have a right to be here. And that fight doesn't mean you have to be outside on the front lines protesting every day. What it does mean is like you exercise your voting power. It does mean that you write your city commissioner. You'd be surprised what a phone call and an email to your member of Congress about a hot button issue will do. We're watching the pressure right now for pro-Palestinian liberation. Initially, after October 7th, people were like, whoa, what are you talking about? What is it? Like, hard line, we support Israel. We're watching our members of Congress roll that back, and that's after months and months and months of organizing efforts from people. So your voice matters. I will say, though, that it scared a lot of people off. Like, I've been trying to get my mom to come down here for so long. She's like, absolutely not. The NAACP says it's not safe. And so,
we don't play some time with stuff like that. Like,
I know.
Word.
And even mentioning scaring people off, we forgot to even tap on the whole law and order and how your governor pretty much stopped spring break. I know for me, when I was 19, I went to spring break in Miami, and we had a darn good time. It was like a spring break, spring bling type of thing. And so the fact that he said, don't come here for spring break, there's no spring break, and that we're a law and order state. What are your thoughts on that, Corryn?
My thoughts here, so it's two-pronged. As someone who lives 30 minutes down from South Beach, and I have experienced just even the highways during spring break and the recklessness that exists. It gets bad down there. It does. It actually gets bad in South Florida. But I absolutely think that there were some things that were racially motivated.
Absolutely.
And I think that the vast majority of it was, well, I don't think the vast majority of it was actually rooted in race. I think the vast majority of it was rooted in the literal chaos. Black, white, everyone. It's actually insanely chaotic. And it was also that it was I thought more so it was the Miami government, the Miami Beach governor, mayor of Miami Beach, who was really like instituting the $100 parking fees to keep people. I think that the messaging was way too harsh. And I think that better guardrails could have been set up to protect the spring breakers, along with the people who live down here. But as someone who, I heard you say you used to come down to spring break, but
I did.
I've only been here for about 10 years, and progressively every year it has gotten more insane. So so I'm not trying to
all in favor.
And to your point, this was way in 2005. So I'm very certain that things have changed from 2005.
It does get crazy. But it wasn't crazy this year for the first time that I've been here.
Okay, and I can receive that. And everything is not racially motivated. Some things are just pure, as you mentioned, chaotic. So I can receive that messaging. So we'll lay off of him on the spring break shutdown.
But not on racism, because he absolutely is a racist.
Oh yeah, it shows all over for sure. Wow,
Well,
what a great conversation. What a great conversation. Thank you so much. What were we going to say, Melody?
Yeah, and just on a lighter note, before we head out, Corryn, just wanted you mentioned you're also the co-founder of the Black Violin Foundation. So wanted you to share a little bit about that because you're so multifaceted. So give us a little bit about the Black Violin Foundation and what do you do there? What do you guys focus on?
Well, the most I attribute the multifacetedness to the ADHD. It got me going.
We love it. There's a lot of things to tackle, so we appreciate you.
Tell that to my husband. So my husband is one half of the duo Black Violin, and they are a duo, violin viola duo, who travel the world playing classical redefined. So they classically trained musicians that do multi-genre. And he's been doing it for so long, and they've always had like a social change element to the work that they did. They always did workshops with kids, and myself and my husband's partner's wife, and we were like, well, why don't we like make it real? We'll file a C3. We created the C3, and through Black Violin Foundation, we have a grant and instrument access program that provides up to $5,000 for aspiring young musicians. Some of it's merit-based, some of it's for BIPOC youth to continue their music education in reimagined ways. We also give out advanced student violins at no cost to young musicians, and we provide two elementary schools in Broward County with free violin lessons once per week, 90 minutes, and we're preparing for a showcase next actually for our young musicians to perform. We're very excited. I mean, when we think about the classical arts, less than 4% of classical musicians are Black, and I believe less than 2% are Latino or Latinx. And so there's a lack of access to and exposure to the classical arts. But there is a level of freedom that I believe comes with the ability to speak through your instrument. And so we believe that all kids, regardless of income status or race, deserve to have access to classical arts and to express it in a redefined way so that the classical arts can continue to live on.
I love that. And Corryn, you're making me want to attend a symphony. I haven't been to a symphony in a couple of years, but for all the listeners, if you haven't gone to a symphony, please do that. It is so, just hearing the instruments so crisp, it just makes you want to dream. It makes you want to reimagine. It makes you happy. It makes you want to smile. So thank you for having your project and offering this to people. That is amazing. Did you ever play the violin?
Oh, in kindergarten, but it was all bad. It was all
clarinet.
Before we leave, fun fact, because this made me think of when I was in the third grade. I grew up in public school in our music class. So when we would go to music class, they had, so many, violin, cello that you could pick. I really wanted to play the violin, but this girl beat me to it and got the last one. So I was Corryn playing the cello. So my mom was like, why did you choose that big one? At the time, we couldn't afford to purchase me a violin. So knowing this program that you're doing, especially for, BIPOC kids, that's amazing because access, right, and representation is key. So thank you so much, because to this day, I wish I would have got that violin.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
So thank you for the work that you do there.
He wanted to play the saxophone. But was mistakenly put in violin class, and he got stuck with a viola. And he's like, "Well, I'm gonna play it," but it changed his life. He's still running around here, playing around the world.
It's beautiful. The violin is beautiful.
Wow, amazing! Thank you for everything that you are doing. What a great, healthy conversation you brought to the podcast today. For all of our future leaders, please check out Corryn. Can you please give us the website one more time?
Future Coalition. So it's www.futurecoalition.org.
Okay.
You're amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Corryn.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.